Welcome, everyone, to the Global Mindfulness in Education Summit. I'm really excited today to introduce you to Cami Dvorakova. Hopefully, pronounced that right. She's coming to us from the Czech Republic. And Cami is a mindfulness teacher, a psychologist, and a researcher. And she's been involved in all kinds of things. She has lived in the US for 10 years and is now back again in the Czech Republic, and she's going to tell us about her work with a middle school curriculum in the Czech Republic and hospitals, like medical university programs, I think, and also doing professional development for teachers. So welcome, Cami, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Hi, Helen. It's so nice to be here and to talk about this interesting topic that's so close to my heart. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So let's start with your own journey into mindfulness. So how did you get to this point that you're at today? Where did it start?
Yeah. Well, it started when I was around 19. And it was very interesting because I was studying at the University of Economics, actually. But there was something, it was interesting to study public administration, but there was something missing for me. And so I decided to take a minor in psychology, and I started to learn more about the human mind and how to bring more well-being into our life. And so I started to do little meditations here and there. But then when I moved to the United States, because I wanted to explore the world, and I started to study developmental psychology at Columbia University, at the beginning of the school year, I joined a meditation group. And the first experience or the first time we met, we did loving kindness meditation. And that was really very transformational for me because it was incredible to go through if you know loving kindness, it's going through, bringing and wishing goodness into our life, into our family's life, into our friends' lives. But then it moves to people who may be difficult for us, or maybe people who have hurt us, or maybe people we don't like. And I remember that it was so powerful for me to be wishing goodness to people who have been difficult in my life. And it really opened up. It cracked my heart open, as we sometimes say. And I started to dive into more about the philosophy behind meditation and mindfulness. And I wanted to bring more of these wonderful practices that were so beneficial in my own life into people's lives. And I worked as an in-home therapist for a couple of years in the Boston area, which was incredible, but also very challenging. And I felt that I would want to more focus on prevention and how to bring well-being promoting practices into people's lives, even before difficulties happen. How can we promote our resilience and how to take care of our own mental health and well-being? Right. So that's why I did my PhD with Mark Greenberg, who is just an incredible mentor and incredible researcher who dedicated his life to social emotional learning and mindfulness. And then, doing the program, I already felt that slowly it was becoming time to go back to my home country and to bring all the things that I learned to my country, because, it's just an incredible privilege to learn in a different country and learn from the best researchers and role models, and then to bring that and take that with me to my home country. So I'm really grateful for both of these opportunities, to be learning abroad, but now to be back home.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's so exciting. Wonderful. And congratulations on your doctorate as well. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in the Czech Republic and in this field and this area. Is it something that's, growing, or is it in a few schools, or is it widespread, and about what the work that you're doing?
So I feel that we have both. I feel there are like many schools that are excited to do things in a new way, in an innovative way. And at the same time, there's the Czech educational system is very conservative. So bringing new ideas into the public school system and spreading them widely has been incredibly difficult at the same time. So it's both, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that's how it happens in other countries as well. So there definitely, it really depends on the people, you know. There are definitely a few principals and teachers who just really want to be taking the most innovative and well-researched methods into the school system, into their schools and to their children. And so there has been already a few people and few mindfulness facilitators who teach mindfulness to both, to teachers and to children. And so they usually do these one-day workshops or couple hours long workshops. And usually they're very busy because there are definitely schools who want to try it out. And at the same time, when I worked at the National Institute of Mental Health in the Czech Republic, and when we wanted to go the direction of spreading this more widely, we began to learn about all the different challenges for doing that. And it's of course, you know, educational system it's a system. So, you know, it starts with the universities that in the Czech Republic, the teacher education universities, again, are very conservative. So making any changes or shifts can be really difficult. Also many teachers actually were educated at these universities during the communist era that ended, you know, in 89, which is not that long time ago. And so there is definitely a certain, I would say, narrow mindset that is, we have been doing things the way we have done it, you know, we know what we're doing, we don't need any new stuff, you know.
Right.
And many teachers are very skeptical, you know. And so when I returned from the United States after 10 years, the first challenge I put on myself was to do this stress management program for teachers that I collaborated with a friend of mine who was a mindfulness facilitator. And we took this kind of adapted mindfulness and self-compassion program to this high school in Prague. And it was thanks to this amazing support from Mind and Life organization that just does amazing work. And it was really difficult because one of the first mistakes we did was that the program was, even though it was a really lovely program, but it was offered to all teachers, and the principal made sure that everyone is there that needs to be there. There was it was not voluntary.
Right.
And this approach has its benefits and its disadvantages. And so we had a lot of pushback from the teachers. And however, at the same time, we were able to talk to the principal and try to make a change for the upcoming sessions so that it actually becomes voluntary. And I think that this kind of setup now works pretty well, where we do, let's say, 2 or 3 hours initial or kind of the first meeting workshop, like 2 to 3 hours kind of intro into the program itself. And then people who want to join in, they can. And if they don't, they don't, you know, that's totally fine. But I think that this combination of at least coming to the first initial meeting for all the teachers in the schools works really well, so that teachers who might not be interested at the beginning may actually kind of be like, oh, this could be cool, you know, these facilitators look nice. Maybe it's like they know what they're talking
First
about.
training was good. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So So that's kind of what we shifted more towards. And so now we do, or I do these one-time workshops, 2-3 hours. They can be, usually it's more focused on stress management and mental health education, because calling it only mindfulness seems too narrow for our culture and for our environment. So I really think that mindfulness and social emotional learning are just important foundations for just overall well-being, promoting practices of well-being focus. So we do these workshops that can be just one-time thing, but we also have an option for doing 2-day trainings. I also was trained in the CARE program that Tish Jennings and Krista Turksma and Chris Brown created. And so those are a little bit longer. They can be longer, 3 to 4 days, but at least it's an option for the schools.
Yeah.
One difficulty that I find here, and I think it's in many different countries, is that there are so many different things now, so many different programs that exist. And schools, they don't always know which ones are actually well researched, which ones do have a good research evidence that they can say, okay, this really works. And so schools can be Czech schools can be a little bit overwhelmed with all the different options. And again, it's kind of, on one hand, it's wonderful that there are so many options, but on the other hand, it's really important to think about, okay, do these things work? So we do still have some programs that, as in the US, that policemen come into schools and they say how drugs are bad.
Right.
And, we have good research that shows that actually that doesn't work at all. It may even increase the drug use. So educating schools or helping them to have access to these well-researched programs is something that needs to be done a little bit more. Yeah,
that's really interesting. So are the programs being translated into Czech, or is that? I mean, I guess they're not running in English, right?
No, that would not work in my country. But it's both. So some programs are being created by Czech people.
Okay. Yeah.
And some programs are being actually translated and taken from different countries. Okay. So just recently, I learned about the program SEE from the Emory University. I mean, I knew the program, but I learned that it was translated and it's being used at a couple of schools. Peace Jam is being translated. The National Institute of Mental Health, which is where I worked, what we decided to do, which I think is a really good approach as well, is that we decided to create our own program from research-based programs. And so we focused on the 5 different areas that seem to be, that seem to show the evidence, which is SEL, social emotional learning, mindfulness, CBT approaches, also body image approaches, and yoga. Okay. And so we worked with teachers to create a program that would actually fit into the Czech educational system. And I think that's something that needs to, when we think about doing work like this in our own countries, I really think that it needs to be well matched to the needs of each country, rather than just taking a program and, I think it can be done. We can do both. I think it's fine to take programs from other countries, but really thinking how we can adapt it to our, unique needs. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I totally, it takes, but I totally agree for it to be successful. I mean, every culture is so unique, and I think it's not very good just to plunk something in from somewhere else, but as you said, take what works and adapt it and fit it into the system and the culture of where you are. Yeah, that's really great advice. So do you have any other advice for, I mean, I'm sure we have a lot of people watching who are moving around the world and or maybe going back to their own home countries and want to bring mindfulness and SEL to their places. So what steps, or what would you say is the way to do it based on your experience?
Yeah. Well, number one, the biggest one is to have patience.
Yeah.
Seriously, and that can be the hardest part, because we want to see change, we want to see a difference. And
Yeah.
so having patience and taking it step by step is just incredibly important. So having your own mindfulness and self-compassion practice, I highly recommend it. Also to prevent burnout, because it's so easy to just dive in, to be super motivated, super excited,
Yeah.
and then, running into these obstacles, all the time. So patience is really important. The other one that we kind of learned a little bit in the painful way was to use really well-researched methods, not only well-researched methods of mindfulness and SEL, but well-researched methods of how to really learn about the community needs. So I love community participatory research. I think that's really wonderful approach, because it doesn't matter if we are researchers or mindfulness facilitators, we are excited about our method, our programs, and we want to just kind of bring it into everybody's life, right?
Yeah.
However, even though that's very lovely and it may work for us, however, what I really feel that it's really needed for actually successful adoption of these approaches is to start with really learning and identifying the community needs. So, for example, theory of change is just incredible research tool that really focuses on what is needed, what is the impact, what is the outcome that we're trying to influence here. And then you're looking at the interventions that may actually fulfill those outcomes.
Right.
So it may not be mindfulness. It may be mental health curriculum where mindfulness may be part of it. Or maybe it's really, improving the working conditions of teachers that may include mindfulness, maybe not. So I really think that having an open mindset of what is it that the teachers really need, not just what I think they need.
Yeah.
So theory of change, I love it. I think that that's something I would want to use more, just in general. And I think that it would be really wonderful if more researchers and facilitators are thinking in that direction.
Yeah. I agree that I've worked in quite a few reform projects in other countries, and I think exactly what you said. It's so important, and sometimes we're so passionate about something, but it is not always that's not always what's needed. So I love that you said that, and listening to everyone that's involved and going to participate and really see what's going to work there and be sustainable. And so that's really wonderful to hear that. So if you had to start again, like you just moved back, would you do anything different?
So many things, right? That's where the self-compassion part is also good, we're like, okay, we go through the process, we learn from it, So definitely I would start slower. I would really take more time to explore and identify the needs, as I was mentioning. And also, I would definitely take much more time to work with schools who are already doing wonderful stuff. Maybe they don't call it mindfulness, or something specific like this, but really learn from the schools that are already doing wonderful stuff and build on that. Because if there are schools who are already exemplars and can be role models for other schools that and are not only ready but already have been doing the work, that's where we can begin, and we can, because with these schools that are ready and prepared, we can bring more cool things. We can maybe bring more mindfulness to teachers, to the kids, but it really building on the success that's already there. That was definitely one of the mistakes that I made, of like kind of rushing in with my own idea. And again, we learned from that, and some teachers benefited from it too. But really working with teachers and schools that are already doing stuff well and building on that. And something that Catherine Wary
Yeah.
She's my,
Yeah.
hero. She's like the European version of Mark Greenberg,
Yeah, exactly.
my mentor. And so something that she says, and I hope that I say it, I remember it well, but just the idea that it's not about this one particular program or not. It's really about the shift in mindset, shift in the atmosphere and the objectives of our educational system. So that's where having a lot of patience and self-compassion is really important. And really thinking, for me, what I would be thinking, where is, let's say, the biggest leverage? Where is it that I could make the biggest impact, let's say with the smallest? That's why the schools that are already doing wonderful work, if we bring a little bit more, let's say, of mindfulness or something there, they can grow more, thinking of, okay, is really maybe doing more advocacy work on the university setting, with professors that are open. I would definitely not do again this kind of fighting with the teachers or schools that just are not ready. I really think that it kind of tires us facilitators and researchers out. And Rob Roser, he's another really wonderful researcher and professor at Penn State. I remember his advice where he told me, don't try to think too big. Don't try to do a big trial with, 20, 30 schools. Work with one and do it well. Go in for the quality rather than quantity. And from that one school, working with one school, that's where you can really learn how to do this better than with 3 or 5 more schools, So really having a little more like, being more humble about the work we do, rather than jumping in and trying to change the whole system. So that's one thing, that's a shift in mindset that I would have next time I would do this again.
Yeah, great advice. And I think it's, we're all just so enthusiastic that, but yes, I think we have to be mindful, and your advice is really, really great. So can you share with us some of the maybe, joyful moments that you've seen or experienced through bringing these things to the Czech Republic?
Yes. Yeah. So what I love is when I teach mindfulness or stress management techniques or these type of programs, is when I am able to create space where teachers learn from each other. And so I remember the program I mentioned, the first one that we did with my colleague. So there was this one point, I think it's like the first day in the afternoon, where we talk a little bit about self-compassion. And that's just a topic that's not really well understood in the Czech environment. It feels weird and strange, and it's just like, what is that? So we introduced the topic, and there was a teacher who really did not like the idea of bringing more kindness, to oneself. And she was very vocal about it. And I remember me and my colleague taking this moment, pausing for a moment. And in that space, actually another teacher from the group shared about her experience of healing from cancer and having self-compassion and learning about self-compassion being one of those crucial things for her that really helped her through that difficult process. So instead of us facilitators trying to make a case for why self-compassion is important, she shared about how that affected and positively impacted her life. And these are the moments where I feel that, as facilitators, we're just creating and holding space for the people to share, to open up, to create meaningful interactions. I don't really think that it's our job to convince anyone, or it's really just holding and creating space. And so these type of moments I really love, where I think that it's really not about teaching others what they should do differently, but just allowing, that allowing them to learn what they need to learn, and maybe for them it's just, taking one breath, to pause is enough. And that's where they want to go. That's how far they want to go. And that's perfectly fine. Again, yes, this enthusiasm that I have, that many of us have, and really curbing it down a little bit and just really being with people where they're at and just creating space for their own learning to happen. So those are the moments that I just enjoy the most. Yeah, when people share from their own experience.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story and a beautiful example of how bringing community together really works in this whole thing. So, thank you so much for sharing. Just before we finish, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about what's happening in your country, or just about bringing these practices to other places?
Well, there is, like I mentioned, there's a lot of different things happening. What we want to try to do is to create a little bit more collaboration, and just kind of having maybe, just last week we talked with a colleague who is thinking about maybe creating something like a coalition of organizations that are interested in promoting mental health in schools. And I think that especially in Central European and Eastern European countries, really creating a safe space for collaboration would be really useful, rather than, kind of having our own little thing that we don't want to share with anyone else. And really just learning from each other with that humility and being able and being willing to learn from each other and change, and shift the perspective or change the direction of our work at least a little bit, by learning from others. So, and like I mentioned before, I really would, I recommend everyone to take these practices deeply into their own life. If we're sharing this, it's really so important that we bring that sense of mindfulness and self-compassion into our own life, so that we can take care of ourselves and do this wonderful, beautiful work. So I actually want to thank everyone for all their work, because it's just beautiful that we're dedicating our life to this. And so good luck with your work.
Thank you so much for sharing all that. And that's why I love doing the summits, is like you mentioned, people are doing all these amazing things all over the place, and we can find some kind of way to share that and learn from each other. I think it would be wonderful. So thank you once again for joining us and for sharing this really valuable information and telling us about what's happening in the Czech Republic. Sounds really exciting, and just thank you again.
Thank you so much, Helen, for your work, for doing this, and also good luck with your work. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.